Hi everybody and welcome back to Nasedyanka, the channel where I talk about Bulgarian history, culture, tradition, customs and faith. And so today I am actually making another short video about saints that are commemorated in October in the Orthodox Christian Church in Bulgaria. Saints, martyrs, saints and martyrs, I mean, automatically people who are martyred for Christ, they become saints in our church. I'm using this book, which I recently mentioned. It is called Календар на Българската Святост, in other words, the calendar of the Bulgarian holiness. I am citing this whole resource along with the mobile phone and the street address if you guys need it. Should you be curious about this, all of my resources go in the comments section, so the description section, I would rather say. So feel free to check that out if you are interested. In the meantime, I will open my magic book in which I take notes by hand because that is my style, and I will share with you what I translated about two priests who were martyred during communism. So this is continuing naturally with examples of how Orthodox Christians in Bulgaria have been persecuted and suffered, and in many ways that criminal action continues to happen to this date in the form of coercion, bullying, violence, assaults, you name it. But for this time being, I am going to present to you the priest and martyr Nikolai, you guys might say Nicholas in the English language, who was from Dolny Dubnik, it's a village in Bulgaria, and the priest and martyr Vasil from the village of Gorny Dubnik, again, Bulgaria. This martyrdom, their murder, occurred on October the 3rd. The year was 1944. So nowadays, on October the 3rd, and I always include the old calendar by calculating 14 days later, which actually sends us to today's date, October 17th, in order to respect the correct calendar. I will talk about the calendar matter in depth, in detail in the future. I have lots of resources in Bulgarian language from holy men in Bulgaria resources that have not been even translated in English. So bear with me and thank you for your patience and encouragement. So here's what I have. So Father Nikolai was a Bulgarian who was born in the village of Batulci. It's in the Bulgarian region of Lovech, and he was born in the year of 1906. He served in different places chronologically, so 1 year in Vratsa, it's a city, 7 years in a region, how can I say, the Pleven region in Bulgaria. The village was called Kumarevo, and then he also served in Dolny Dubnik. In the last village in Dolny Dubnik, he built one of the most beautiful village temples, a church, like we call those chrams. So a chram, a temple, can be a church, it can be a cathedral. So it's one of the most beautiful ones that he built in Bulgaria. It represented a smaller version of the so-called Храм Паметник Свети Александър Невски. Bear with me to translate that. It literally stands for, word for word, like the monumental temple of Saint Alexander Nevsky. Basically, that's a cathedral, Orthodox Christian cathedral, that's called Saint Alexander Nevsky in Sofia, Bulgaria. So what this is saying is that Father Nikolai built a smaller version of that cathedral in that village of Dolny Dubnik, and they say it's one of the most beautiful ones in Bulgaria. So it just tells us how his devotion and love for Christ was genuine and pure. In the meantime, Father Vasil, you guys might say Vasili, or Father Basil, we say Vasil in Bulgarian language. He was born in the village of Batulci, region of Vraca, Bulgaria. He spent his entire priesthood or priest ministry in the village of Gorny Dubnik. In their sweet memories about him, people have said that when he served, Father Vasil, even the church's yard was full and crowded. This tells me of how genuinely people loved him, they appreciated him. And I will include a few thoughts and reflections to distinguish a little bit between Eastern Orthodox Christianity and Western denominations and sects. And in the future, I'll talk more in depth. But for right now, bear with me. I will share a few of those thoughts in this video, however, towards the end. Father Vasil, people also have said about him that he was clean and pure. He was worthy, dostoin, like valuable. That he was a worthy human, a valuable human, much like the Balkan streams of the village of Batulci where he was born. It's very endearing when I hear that. Both of these priests, human beings, were brutally murdered during communism. First, they were abducted. And by the way, their abduction happened at the exact same time, and their murder happened at the exact same time. There is no coincidence here, right? Their murder was brutal, and I went ahead to translate these words, what the communists actually used, okay? So, toyagi in the English language stands for staffs, clubs, cudgels, bats. I haven't even heard the word cudgel, but I guess that's a word. But you can see, like, bats, I know that, clubs and staffs, very heavy sticks, right? They used that to hit them, to beat them. They also used topori, that's axes. They also used kirki, turnukopi, that means pickaxes in the English language. So, for lack of better words, it just sounds like, what would you call it, like a butchery to me. The product of communism, that is, right? So Father Nikolai was actually stabbed before all that happened. He was stabbed with a knife in the vehicle with which the two of them actually were abducted to be taken to the place where they would be murdered and, you know, beat to death. So their graves have remained unknown. Father Nikolai from Dolny Dubnik and Father Vasil from Gorny Dubnik are said to have, of course, symbolically, Bulgarian use a lot of symbolic language, but they are said to have become two powerful and tall-standing spiritual oaks, like oak trees, of the maternal or native holiness, in other words, of the holiness of Bulgaria, whose peaks reached the heavens. So here is a little commentary that I wanted to include from my reflections on this, because for those of you who are following, you know, but those of you who are new to my channel, you might not know. I am an immigrant. I've lived in a Western country for more than 2 decades, and I have encountered a lot of controversy. As a matter of fact, many people have mocked Christianity and used very negative language, and in many ways I understand. From the perspective of Western Christian denominations and sects. However, there is a huge difference between the West and the Eastern churches, and my experience has shown me that people are simply innocently ignorant of those differences in the West. So I speak about this here as I'm educating people about Bulgaria, and of course I speak about faith because Orthodox Christianity is an indelible part of our Bulgarian national identity. So Orthodox Christianity does not preach forcing other human beings into believing what those other human beings don't want to believe. Unlike Western I want to say progeny of diverse branches of sects and denominations that I have encountered in the West, Orthodox Christianity teaches respect for human beings, for human free will, capital F, capital W, free will. What I have encountered in the West throughout all the branches and sects of so-called Christianity, I don't even call them Christians, is a corrupt distortion of the faith, where people are beat with the Bible, they're enforced into believing some things, they're denied services, they're expected to be paying tithes. There's so many things that I've heard that simply don't fit with Orthodox Christianity. And like I said, I will produce, that's my plan, I will produce videos in the future where I will speak more and more from the Holy Fathers and our Holy Orthodox Christian Church in Bulgaria to prove to you, to show you how the Orthodox Christian Church is living the gospel of Christ, is the original Orthodox, the original Christianity, as Christ brought it to the apostles. As a matter of fact, the apostle Andrew is said to have walked on our lands in Bulgaria. He actually, people say, walked in Varna, which is my native city, and he left the teaching fresh as it was. We have churches. One of them I'm thinking right away is the Rotunda of St. George in Sofia, Bulgaria, which dates back to the 4th century. These are old. This is original. As authentic, as historically authentic as you guys can get. So the next point I wanted to make here was, while Christ brought the medicine for salvation to people, to humans, he did not, how can I say, he did not force people to follow him, right? He honored humans' free will. Now, Christ revealed the truth about our essential spiritual nature. You might understand this as our energetic body. It is, I bet, way more complicated than even that. The point is, he did not condemn anybody to death, decay, or hell, as I continuously have heard from Western so-called Christian denominations. They somehow put words in Christ's mouth and they somehow interpret the scripture based on their choice of words and or sentences that they extract from the Bible, and then they make wrong conclusions which actually cause spiritual trauma to people. So on the contrary, Christ taught that no one knows the end of times, when the human race should be judged, right? And by the way, judgment really means discerning. There's a lot more in depth that we can go in there, but hang on here for the sake of this talk. He said that not even the Son of God knows the end of times. Orthodoxy is the religion of healing from the fallenness, from corruption. So the point here is that those priests were innocent human beings, and they were martyred. They were tortured and brutally murdered by the communist powers at the time, simply because of their faith. Simply because they were serving inside Orthodox Christian churches. And this did not only happen to them, this happened to thousands and thousands and thousands of Orthodox Christians, not only in Bulgaria, but throughout the Orthodox lands. Unfortunately, it continues to happen to date. So I wanted to draw your attention here and say, basically, see, you must proceed with caution, with utmost caution. And I'm calling you guys for the attention to, I want to call your attention to cultural sensitivity. When you judge people, and I've heard this time and again in the West, when you guys use words or you're turning to people and there is judgment, or you hear it and you witness it, especially comments on behalf of people's background and ethnicity or culture or their historic experiences, you may use one and the same word and actually mean completely different things, such as the word sin. What Orthodox Christians understand by sin is completely different from what I've heard Protestant, Western denominations understand by sin. When we talk about salvation, Protestants understand one thing, and Orthodox understand something completely different. So this is an appeal here for caution. Proceed with caution and humility. And in humility, by humility I mean humanity. This is a call for humanity. This is a small example of a grave difference between the East and the West in the Western Church. Just a tiny little bit of an example that I wanted to just mark right here in this video. Now, I do work in mental health, and I've mentioned time and again in my videos that these videos have nothing to do with my job. I do work full-time at in mental health. I have studied. I am a licensed practitioner, and so this is just purely my hobby. I talk about my country because I love my country and my background, and I believe that as people learn about history, human history, they also can stand up for their rights. They can identify who they are. They can learn to be themselves authentically. So with this in mind, I actually remarked something. I noticed that in mental health, in the field of mental health, there has been, much talk about religion and spirituality, more so that one that favors spirituality over religion. One that kind of like gives the message that if we're religious, then it kind of seems like we have closed our options. We kind of go with a black and white mindset, as opposed to spirituality that allows us to grow more in depth. Well, I actually wanted to remark on that. This is very different from Orthodox Christian perspective. And I have not only studied mental health, I've also studied energies in the past. I have explored different cultures and traditions. My choice of following the Orthodox Christian Church is not just a blind following of a tradition. It's not just because I'm Bulgarian. It's not just because my mom and dad did it, which actually they didn't, because they grew up during communism and they really experienced much of the brainwashing and the scare factor at the time. But this here is, I really wanted to draw your attention to the point that mental health seems to understand the human being and call it holistic understanding within three realms: physical, mental, and emotional. Now they have added this fourth component, spiritual. So we have a physical body, we have a mental body that concerns our thoughts, we have an emotional body that concerns our feelings, and then we have a spiritual body that concerns our spiritual growth. And they come from a good intention, from a positive intention place. However, well, that's my belief, right? However, from my studies abroad and in other cultures and holistic medicine, I mean, include acupuncture and homeopathy and even esotericism, which I deny as a Christian Orthodox, and I deny it not because it's nonsense, but because it's very realistic, and we have to be realistically, we have to face the truth that human beings cannot discern what energies they're dealing with. So this comes to say that there is a way higher way of existence. And I don't know if you guys will call this our energy body, but this is the body that Christ has created, that our God speaks to. And when Christ came to bring us the medicine, he is calling us for salvation. Now, I don't want to disintegrate those because that's also not the Orthodox Christian view. I'm using this purely for mental health purposes because I'm noticing how difficult it is to relay those messages to people. The bottom line here is that in Orthodox Christianity, we are religious and we are spiritual, and we are not black and white thinkers, and we are not mental health thinkers. As a matter of fact, what I notice is that the Orthodox Christian fathers and mothers from the first centuries have already described the mental health material that I have studied in university and college. So there is, if I can, for lack of better words, we have an energy body that we are not well aware of. And every word, deed, action, thought, and feeling, every event that happens actually leaves an impact on that energy body. Our spirituality may feel great, blossoming, but our energy body may be suffering. Our soul may be suffering. We may be enjoying something physically. It may taste and smell and look and feel tactile-wise great, but the energy imprint that it leaves upon that spiritual body, that's a different matter. So this does lead things to a more complicated matter, and I really wanted to just give you a little tiny glimpse of attention here. Again, just calling out for respect when you see people from a different culture, let alone East Europe. When you hear the word Christianity, to be mindful that not all terminology is known in the West. It's not. Now, is there literature? Of course, there is. And I see that it's very, how can I say, impoverished. People are making great effort in translating and bringing it out to the West, which I absolutely respect. And I think that it produces wonderful, I don't know how to call it, steadfast people, Christians in the West, who bring over the knowledge from the East. I mean, it's very hard to break the box, to look out of a box and spread out, information and knowledge, which there is no concept or no language to even reiterate it in yet. But there is such in places like in Bulgaria. It's existed there for ever since Christ walked our earth, and as a matter of fact, our ancestors, the ancient Bulgarians, the Proto-Bulgarians, the Thracians that I've spoken about in previous videos, they were prepared to receive that knowledge. This means that energetically, if you want to call it spiritually, they were prepared. They were already practicing and aware of certain ways in which our humanity can manifest. So coming back to this, I do need to take a deep breath because this feels overwhelming. It is not fair to judge Orthodox Christianity through the lens of Western denominations, secularism, experiences, because Orthodoxy didn't even originate here. Are people worthy of it? Of course, it's available everywhere, of course, and people are proving time and again, and there are saints, Orthodox Christian saints in the West that are absolutely wonderful wonder workers, and they have spoken about this. But nonetheless, one thing that the West omits is basically the impact of our decisions, our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings upon our spiritual body. I don't know if you want to call it energy body or spiritual body, and this has nothing to do with the spirituality that mental health is talking about nowadays. Does it mean don't learn spirituality from a mental health perspective? Of course not. This is another realm that's necessary for people who need healing, but it does not negate that there is another depth in Christianity. So it basically brings to a deeper or higher degree the spiritual identity of which Christ came to prepare us to save, I want to say to heal humanity. And coming back to what I was saying, Orthodox Christianity does not force anybody to practice what they don't believe. And that goes on with my channel. If you guys are interested in that kind of information, you're welcome to attend. I respect you. I'm glad to be able to rejoice. If you guys are not interested in this, I respect you just the same. That's okay. This is not everybody is going to like or be ready for that kind of information, and that's fine. So with this, I'm going to begin wrapping up, basically saying that on this date, we commemorate the memory of both priests and martyrs Nikolai of Dolny Dubnik, Bulgaria, as well as Vasil of Gorny Dubnik, who were martyred for their faith in Christ by the Communist Party. And the year of their martyrdom was 1944, October the 3rd. That's new calendar. October 17th, that's old calendar. Thank you so much for your encouragement and patience, and for the comments. I really appreciate seeing them. It brings so much motivation, and it means so much to see when people are gaining something positive, you know, from information. I am a believer in spreading the truth, knowing the truth. Why? Because the truth sets us free. How? It gives people options, as opposed to deceiving, corrupting, coercing, where people lose options and they end up trapped. Well, that's abuse. So I vote for freedom, and that goes together hand in hand with my background, my country of origin, and my country of origin's faith, which again is an indelible part of the texture of Bulgaria. So for those of you who are still interested, stay tuned. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so. And I hope that you're enjoying the day. I am recording this indoors right now, but I look outside. It's been a cooler day, colder day, so I decided to run some more errands indoors. But that will not stop me from recording future videos once again in the outdoors, even if it means building a bonfire somewhere and videotaping, making a video. That will be great. We'll see how it goes. So I hope that this finds you well, and I hope the rest of your day and week goes well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.